I'm Dr. Jared Pingleton, Vice President of Professional Development for the American Association of Christian Counselors, and we're here today with special friend and colleague Dr. Greg Jantz, founder of the Center, A Place of Hope in suburban Seattle. Greg, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you. We've got some topics.
We do, and the first one we're going to tackle today has to do with an unprecedented epidemic, a scourge in our society that we've never seen the likes of. We have 167 people a day, as you know, Greg, dying from opiate addiction and overdose. And so the questions surrounding that are, how do we begin to address treatment with this horrible epidemic?
Addressing treatment with opioid crisis is a huge question because we've got the black market. We've got, this is coming through, we haven't solved, these pain pills are still being passed out. So we've got a supply issue, and then when the pills get too expensive, the next one down is heroin. And heroin is a lot cheaper. So what we're finding is now we've got a heroin epidemic. So we've got two things going on that started with the opioids, and we're finding now this addiction, or this, we're calling it a crisis, it's an epidemic, is broadened, and it's broadened in the ages. So dropping to younger ages. So this is one of our
and expanding into older ages as well. The 82-year-old lady who gets hit in a car wreck, and her physician prescribes an oxy for her neck pain.
Correct.
After 30 days, her brain doesn't know the difference between that and cocaine. She's addicted.
Exactly, and you've described very well what's happening. So how do we address this? First of all, let's just say this is complex because most people do not seek help.
Right.
When they're struggling with this addiction.
That's right.
They're not seeking help. And so we're in a situation where we have a lot of addicts, and it's creating a lot of other issues, but they're not seeking help. So this is back to oftentimes where it's an intervention.
Yes.
It is, we've got to disrupt this cycle and get this person help. Now, oftentimes a person with an addiction hits rock bottom and they go, okay, I need help. You see this with, we've treated addictions for years, you see this with alcohol. Okay, yeah, I got it, I do need help. But we don't see that with this. They're not seeking help. They're seeking more of the drug or switching it to heroin.
Or fentanyl, which is the synthetic that is
version.
1,000 times more potent and powerful and addictive.
Exactly. And this is why we're seeing the death rate as it is. It's hard to say, but I suspect it's probably going to get worse. We haven't solved anything yet. So I think it is an individual intervention. It's one life at a time. This is a path to obviously self-destruction, but a path to death.
It is.
And that's what we're seeing.
Well, I appreciate your point of the distinction, because you're right. This is unprecedented in so many ways, including the fact that this is not your average addiction.
Right.
This is the every man and woman, if you will,
kind
of middle class addiction that is sort of in vogue, and it's stealth because, you know, my physician prescribed some medication for my pain. But again, what we know from brain science, as you know, Greg, is after 30 days, the brain and all of the sensors and receptors and neurotransmitters don't know the difference between any kind of prescription opioid and cocaine or heroin or crack.
So you're going to get whatever you can get. Exactly.
To kind of keep the habit going.
So how we address this, I think if we've got family members, it's literally throwing a life preserver individually. It's individual intervention because they're not going to probably seek help.
Right.
We've been treating addiction for years. I have not had anybody come in and say, you know, I'm addicted to pain pills, and say, I need help. It's usually something else, another crisis that's happened. It could be loss of a marriage, or it could be financial, but there's something else that's usually happened before they're getting help.
You and your team do an exemplary job in the area of wellness. and looking comprehensively at the holistic approach to health and the body and the mind and relationships and the spirit. Obviously, we know that in hardcore drug addiction, there are severe nutritional implications and obviously relational implications to that. But help us understand, maybe shifting the focus a bit, to me, prevention is easier than cure.
Yes.
And for folks who are legitimately experiencing physiological pain, how can we learn more effective pain management techniques that would be a treatment option instead of a prescription opioid?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what we need to do. Now, right now on the horizon is drug testing for new non-addictive pain pills. So I think science is going to solve some of that part.
Great.
But we still have a lot of addictions. We'll still have the black market, so to speak, as well. So
In the hallway of every high school in America.
yeah,
25 bucks a pill.
yeah. You know, when we think about this, and when you said the number of people that are dying each day, ultimately we all are going to know somebody.
Yeah.
This is going to hit close to home, and I have seen family members lose a family member because of it. So I don't want us to live with regret by not doing anything. You go, well, there's nothing we can do.
Right.
No, you could be saving a life.
Well, so walk us through,
Okay.
Greg, how do you do an intervention with a loved one or family member?
Sure. Yeah, intervention, sometimes it's kind of a scary topic, and there's even been a television program called Intervention, which we've been on. So how do you do an intervention? Well, first of all, we have to decide we're no longer going to enable this. We have an addict at home or a loved one, and we've been trying to cope for a while, and maybe we've even enabled it by sometimes giving money or allowing a person to be there and use. And this could be with any form of addiction. So an intervention simply says those who love and care, who are being impacted by this, are going to together. Now there's different forms of intervention. There's a soft intervention where we are a little softer with it. But I tell you, we need to usually be, what I'll do more of a hard intervention. And loved ones have prepared. There's been some coaching sessions before this intervention. They're usually writing a letter of how this has affected them. Yes, there is a setup to this, and we are getting the addict into a surprise meeting. And most of the times, they stay. Most of the times. And by the time everybody has read a heart-wrenching letter, everybody's saying the same thing. We want you to get help. And not only do we want you to get help, but your suitcase is packed, and we've already chosen where you're going to go to get help. So an intervention means I have to have a plan. I need to act upon that plan, and there's got to be a plan B. Let's say if the person does not go along with this. Remember, there's going to be a lot of anger, there's going to be a lot of upset. And so for those, smaller percentage, to decide not to do that, then what's our plan B? Are we going to allow them to live in our home? So these are things that a family has to have a good plan.
So there have to be consequences.
There's consequences. This is why I say we can no longer enable this. There is a consequence.
Well, and as you know, when we're addicted, that motivation to perpetuate the addiction is so strong that we very creatively develop slick and effective ways to make excuses, to sidetrack, to distract, and diminish the impact of the addiction.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I like your point about a tough love approach, that sometimes we have to make sure that no excuses are acceptable.
No, we are all going to be firm. Those family members and loved ones doing the intervention, we got to know ahead of time. Do we have a weak link anywhere? Somebody is,
that can be manipulated.
Yeah, it can be manipulated. So we've got to go in and really be prepared. Now, I think most of the times we're saving a life. Mm-hmm. And I have seen it where some time needs to pass, but they will come back and say thank you.
Good.
And so it's worth it. So as we look at this opiate crisis, one of the things that we need to look at is probably saving one life at a time.
Amen. Well, thank you, Dr. Jantz. That is so worthwhile. We've been talking today on Counsel Trends about addressing the opioid addiction with special guest Dr. Greg Jantz, founder of the Center, A Place of Hope in Seattle, Washington. Thanks, Greg. It's great to be with you today.